More on this, I'm joined by Shibley Telhami, a senior fellow at the Brookings Center for Mideast Policy and a professor of peace and development at the University of Maryland. Thank you so much for joining us, Shibley. Let me ask you, the deal with Saudi Arabia, what happens next?
Well, it's hard to know. Obviously, the Saudis have their own strategic interests, and they have not paid as much attention to the Israeli-Palestinian issue, even in their negotiations. But their public opinion cares a lot about this issue. In fact, probably they care more about this issue than they care about nuclear capabilities or even assurances from the United States. So they had to show at least a fig leaf. When this is happening, when an operation like this on this scale raises the question of Palestine Arab public opinion, and actually, in fact, in a supportive way, it makes it harder for them to maneuver. So obviously, they're going to hedge the best. They're going to wait. Their interests remain the interests, but they cannot avoid confronting public opinion. And many of us have been saying for months, as this negotiation for a deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel have been saying, you cannot ignore the Israeli-Palestinian issue. That remains one that could explode any minute and backfire and influence everything else.
Do you believe this attack by Hamas was timed to throw this deal off?
No, I do not. I actually think that, certainly in some ways it bears on it because there's a sense of despair in the Palestinian areas. I was in Israel and the Palestinian areas last week, and the amount of despair in the occupied territories is incredible. They've been under occupation for 56 years, but more importantly, they were expecting more from the Biden administration. Biden really has not spent much time to address the Israeli-Palestinian issue, and obviously they were expecting Arab governments to be able to weigh in on their behalf. In that sense, there's more despair, and obviously Hamas can capture this despair, is capturing this despair. But honestly, it's what's happening on the ground, and the inability of anybody to stop it. The settlements, the statements by far-right Israeli ministers who say basically the land only belongs to Jews, but not the Palestinians. The encroachment in East Jerusalem, which is a major issue. Remember, Hamas called this Al-Aqsa flood, which is obviously because of the centrality of East Jerusalem, especially Al-Aqsa Mosque in the Arab world and the Muslim world, but especially to Palestinians. So no, there were things happening on the ground that amounted to despair. Now, obviously, Hamas is also a political entity. It has its own political interests. One of the consequences of this is marginalizing their competitor, the Palestinian Authority, further. Palestinian Authority has been considered to be really ineffective and more of a contractor of Israeli security than serving the Palestinians. So they're further marginalized to the benefit of Hamas.
So Hamas has said what they're intending to do here is to make Israelis feel the pain that they've been feeling under this occupation. I'm not asking you to justify what they've done here. I don't think any justification is possible. But can you tell me, and you touched on this, about the environment and what has been happening within both the West Bank and Gaza that would lead to something like this?
Katie, this is an issue that is really painful to talk about. It's painful because, look, no one should be allowed to target civilians or recklessly endanger them, whether it's Israelis or Palestinians. And the United States has to stand firm on this issue. So far in a day and a half, we've had hundreds of Israelis and Palestinians killed and thousands wounded. So obviously in the Hamas assault on Israel and the following attacks, bombings by Israel, Palestinian territories, most of these people have been innocent civilians. And we've got to make it clear that while sometimes we support a just cause, we should be firm in opposing any actions that target civilians or recklessly endanger them. But obviously, in the middle of a conflict like this, when the Israelis, the Washington Post had a headline today, defeated and humiliated, grip fears Israelis. I understand that. They witnessed some of their own civilians that are being killed and hurt and being helpless. And some of them are calling for flattening Gaza, including civilians, no matter what it takes. And you can imagine on the Palestinian side, you had, 56 years of occupation, humiliation, no end in sight, settlements building, taking over their lands. And so, yes, hearts harden in times of war. And the responsibility for leaders is to go above that. Now, President Biden yesterday issued a statement of total empathy with Israel. I understand that, given the sentiment. I understand that he wants to reach out to the Israelis to assure them, people more than government, they need it for sure. But I hope that's not the only thing he's doing, because he needs to make clear that not anything justifies targeting civilians or recklessly endangering them. The Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, yesterday said, we are out for revenge. He used the word revenge. He said to the Palestinian, civilians, leave now. Where are they going to leave? Meaning, it seemed like an ominous threat. We need to assure both sides. We cannot assure just one. I'm not talking about Hamas. I'm talking about the people. I'm talking about the civilians. And we need to have a responsible way of dealing with that, not just looking at the tactical issues that will be essentially need attention for sure. But look at the big picture, and also look at the big picture of the intolerable situation that has been taking place there beyond the immediate understandable urge to act.
Shibley Telhami, thank you very much for joining us.